And welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Kelly Craft. We are in Georgia for the stranger home invasion murder trial. This one is for defendant Matthew Lanz. He is accused of brutally murdering Timothy and Amber Hicks in their Metro Atlanta home. This was back in November of 2021, and then leaving their 2-year-old son alone for more than 12 hours until police eventually found him. Lanz was arrested 2 days later after he stabbed a police officer who responded to a burglary call. Other officers fired at Lanz, hitting him twice. This is a bench trial, meaning the judge will decide Lanz's fate. Let's go back in now, where we are listening to the victim's father. This is Justin Hicks' father. His name is Timothy, and he's still on direct by the state.
We're looking together. When they saw this particular home, I believe Amber kind of fell in love with it, and that's kind of the house that she wanted. And so that's the one they aggressively pursued.
Were they excited when they were able to purchase this home?
A whole lot.
This is a big deal for them?
Yeah.
Now, once they moved into this residence in September of 2021, did they decorate and furnish the house?
Yeah, they decorated and furnished it.
Did they keep it pretty clean?
Clean's not the word for it. I mean, Justin's a neat freak. You know?
Okay. Immaculate, maybe.
Oh, yeah. He didn't have a speck of dust or crumb or... Yeah, he's pretty... I'm not saying Amber wasn't, but I know Justin was pretty...
Did they typically, clean up and tidy up before they went to bed at night or relax?
Yeah, typically. Dishes were done, things were put away. In fact, they even... Best I can remember, they prepared for the next day. Had like Justin would have his uniforms pressed or whatever and ready to go.
Diaper bag packed,
Diaper bag packed, and
What about safety measures? Did they have their house baby-proofed for Jacob?
They did. Jacob's room, actually, Justin had turned the bedroom door into a two-way door, maybe like a barn door, where you could open the top or the bottom, and they'd open the top so they could see in, but Jacob couldn't get out without them knowing it. And they had a baby monitor. They had gates on the upper and lower end of the staircase. And if I remember right, they had a gate or two actually on the main level blocking something. Okay. And those gates were locking gates. I forget the kind of lock, but it was more or less a child-proof lock.
And do you know whether those child-proof locks were engaged typically when Justin and Amber were still awake at night, but Jacob had already gone to sleep?
If Jacob had gone to sleep and they were sitting up for a little while, the gates were most likely unlocked.
Okay. But they would secure them before
They
bed?
would secure them when they went to bed.
What about locks on, baby locks on doors to the exterior?
They had some of those. They also had some of those little hinge things you put on cabinet doors and things like that. Plugs in the sockets and outlets and...
Really made a lot of efforts to keep that house baby-proof.
Yeah.
Did they have a security system?
They did. I believe it was one called Ring. Was it Ring? That's what what I remember. I think it was a Ring. One of them at the door, cameras, and you can see it on your cell phone. Okay. Kind of thing.
And do you know whether they had subscriptions where data stored for things like the footage?
I think they did. I think they had I don't know who the alarm company was, but I believe they did have some sort of, they had some sort of system where it was recorded.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to November 17th of 2021. Do you remember that day?
Unfortunately, I do.
Do you remember what Justin was doing on November 17th of 2021?
On that particular day, he was off of work. My wife and I were babysitters for Jacob while they worked. And anytime Justin was off, he kept Jacob himself. So I knew that he was off because Jacob was with him. And I'm not sure what all they did that day. Hang on a minute, let me gather my thoughts back.
Well, let me ask you this. So Justin and Jacob were home that day.
On the 17th, yeah, I'm trying to get the date between 17 and 18, right?
I know. It's okay. What kind of car did Justin drive?
Justin drove a black F-150 pickup truck.
And did Amber have her own car as well?
She did. She had a Chevrolet Equinox.
And do you know on November 17th of 2021, were both of their vehicles home?
No, that particular day would have only been Justin's truck because they had gone the night before. They dropped it off at a mechanic and need some sort of repairs, and so they had dropped it off and met up at some point and would have all been in Justin's truck.
Did anything for the time that you had contact with them on November 17th of 2021, did anything seem off to you?
Everything seemed fairly normal.
And now I want to talk to you about November 18th of 2021. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, that's where my memories mostly, that's where I'm drawn to, trying to answer questions about the 17th.
Why is it that your memory is drawn there? What happened on November 18th of 2021?
My wife and I were in bed asleep. It's early in the morning. And my phone rang, and it was Amber's work, her boss from work. And she had asked if we knew where Amber was. And I told her, no, we don't know what's going on. She said she hasn't reported for work. And I'm like, okay. And this kind of like spiritual radar went off inside me, and I knew something was wrong. I'm personally a pattern person, and I just keep up with patterns. And I knew that she should be at work. Justin would be off with Jacob.
Listening to the father of one of the victims there on the stand, we are going to continue to follow this case. More of the stranger home invasion murder trial up next.
You have to punish him? You have to kill him for a few $100?
You don't touch fire and expect not to get burned. My goal is to embarrass you. My goal is to make you suffer. My goal is for pain. Make sure that you remember me for the rest of your life.
You weren't feeling any sympathy?
If I'm being honest now.
You kill a man for acting like a junkie when you're the one who turned him into a junkie.
Interview with a Killer season finale, Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on Court TV.
Welcome back. We are going to head back out and watch the stranger home invasion murder trial. This has been taking place in Georgia. We have been listening to one of the victim's fathers on the stand. Defendant Matthew Lanz is accused of breaking into his neighbor's Cobb County home and shooting and killing Timothy and Amber Hicks. They were both just 31 years old. Lanz was caught days later during another burglary in a neighboring county where he is accused of stabbing a police officer. Let's head back inside the courtroom. Justin Hicks' father still testifying on direct by the state.
I immediately woke my wife up, and I told her, if you're going with me, get in the van, let's go. And we drove to their house in Verbena. And we parked in the driveway, and I noticed first the garage, because that's where, when you pull in, the garage was, which we're facing. Off to the left was the sidewalk that led to the front door. I ended up going to the front door, and I was banging on it very hard. And I gradually got harder and harder because I didn't get any response. And finally, I was banging on it so hard it was actually bowing a little bit. And I didn't hear the dog bark. I didn't hear Jacob. I didn't hear anybody. And so I have prior law enforcement experience, so I did go over there armed. And I kind of jumped into law enforcement mode, and I started searching the perimeter of the house. I left the front door and went around to the left side of the house and was walking the edge of the wall all the way around, quick peeks and looking. In the backyard, they have this little breezeway kind of thing. It's like a patio. And when I got to the corner of the house there, where that separates, I did a quick peek, and I saw that the blinds and curtains were flapping in the wind, and there's glass everywhere on the patio. I knew then there'd been some sort of forced entry. I approached the window. My intent was to go in. I approached the window, pushed the blinds back. And I looked in. The first thing I saw was a bunch of glass inside that room. That room that door and window enters would have been Jacob's playroom. And as I looked in there, I noticed there was lots of glass all on the floor. I peeked a little further and looked to the left. The left would have been their living room or den, or however you want to call it. Their TV room, the couch and all of there. And as I peeked in, I saw them.
Take your time. Take your time.
I saw that they weren't okay. And then when I saw that, I'd already kind of got into cop mode, and I backed out because I was the only one there other than my wife and daughter, and they wasn't going to help me clear the house. That wasn't even going to happen. So I backed out the window, and I took a low-ready position. And my daughter called 911 and had my wife take the van out of the driveway, parking on the street, and I had both of them get on the opposite side of the van for cover. I didn't know if anyone was still in the house or not.
I want to stop you right there, so I want to slow down just a little bit.
Okay.
Had you ever gotten a call from Amber's work before?
Never have. I have, but not on things like that. It was generally, I own a woodworking business, and they called a couple of times and want to help with some projects they're working on, but nothing out of the ordinary, like nothing that's a life-changing pattern, it was all just other things.
So to your knowledge, had she ever just not shown up to work?
And Amber never do that. If she wouldn't go in, she'd call.
Prior, I know you said you just got that feeling and wanted to get in the car immediately. Did you try to call Amber?
We did. We tried to call both their phones. I had my wife, I think maybe my wife and my daughter called them as we were driving, or as I was driving.
And were you ever able to get any response from anyone?
No response on either phone, and that just intensified the whole unction. Something's not right.
Did you try texting as well?
Maybe. I don't remember for sure, but probably.
When you say that you all jumped in the car, so who was driving?
I was driving the van, and
who was in the front with you?
my wife would have been in the front seat and my daughter in the back.
And who's your daughter?
Ashley Hicks.
And so Ashley and Justin are brother and sister?
They are.
Who's older?
Justin would be older. And then I have a son, Michael. He would be next, and then Ashley's the baby.
We were hearing Timothy talk about that 911 call. He told his daughter to call 911. Coming up in a little bit, that 911 call is going to be played. Still with us, trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, this is a bench trial. Kind of talk about the different approach for an attorney when you're doing a bench trial versus a jury trial.
Well, when you do a jury trial, you have to, play, there has to be more theatrics because you want to keep the jury awake, for one, and you want them to be able to understand from a non-attorney perspective what is going on. When you have a bench trial, it's ultimately the judge making the decision. So the judge, you understand, kind of, we hope, and definitely in most cases has a firm understanding of the law, and they also know what is required for the conviction or acquittal.
Yeah, and I can't imagine that there'd be any kind of other result in this case except one that seems to be warranted. There doesn't seem to be a lot of confusion or any kind of defense that can be put on in this case, except that, you know, this defendant is probably the one. But, of course, presumed innocent until proven guilty. So we'll continue to follow this Alexis case out of Georgia, just a senseless act of violence. We appreciate you joining us. As always, Alexis Rosenberg. Up next, we're going to have more of this case. As I mentioned, that 911 call. We're going to hear that call made by the sister of Justin Hicks. Keep it here on Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott, honored, of course, to be with you today, where we are bringing you day one of the stranger home invasion murder trial against defendant Matthew Lanz. This is a bench trial, meaning the judge will decide his fate. He's facing multiple charges, including murder and assault, for allegedly shooting a couple to death inside of their dream home. Now, their 2-year-old son was found in that home unharmed 12 hours later. He also stands accused of breaking into several other homes and then stabbing a police officer in the neck. Prosecutors say there is no specific motive. Right now, we are hearing from victim Justin Hicks's father, Timothy, having a hard time during his testimony emotionally. He's facing direct by the state, and they are about to play the 911 call made by Justin's sister. Let's go back in.
So you mentioned that you have prior law enforcement experience. Where was that?
Cherokee County.
How many years?
Just right about 15 years.
And so when you originally arrived there, where did you park your vehicle or the van?
When I first pulled in, I pulled straight in the driveway beside Justin's truck.
And so your car was basically right next to him at the parking spot.
Right next to the truck in the driveway. The truck would have been to my left as I pulled in.
And when you said that you went to the front door and you were kind of pounding on the door, were your wife and Ashley next to you, or did they stay in the van?
They got out. They wasn't quite up to the door yet. They never really moved too much out of the driveway until I got to the back. And then Charlene just kind of peeked around the corner. And that's when I told her, I said, get back. Move the van up to the street. And Ashley, you call 911. And then both of you get on the opposite side of the van and stay down, hunker down and stay there.
At this time, state moves to tender States Exhibits 4, 5, and 6. States Exhibit 4 is the business record certificate from Cobb County 911 Communications. States Exhibit 5 is the 911 audio recording of Ashley Hicks, and States Exhibit 6 is the CAD report. Both the audio and CAD report are covered by the business record certificate in States 4.
Interjection. 4, 5, and 6. States 4, 5, and 6 are admitted.
And Your Honor, can we go ahead and publish States Exhibit 5?
Yes.
What's the location of your murder scene?
Hi, I'm here to report a break-in. 9 Verbena.
Okay. And what is your name?
We need someone here immediately.
What is your name?
Ashley Hicks.
Your
My
son?
brother and his wife and 2-year-old son are missing. All
right, and tell me exactly what's going on.
What, ma'am?
Tell me exactly what has happened.
So, my sister-in-law's work called saying that she hasn't called in today and it's out of character for her. So we stopped by their house and investigated the area trying to see if they made tips. And one of the windows in the back is broken.
There's a window in the back that's broken?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you guys gone inside the house?
No.
Okay.
My father's a retired cop, and he does have a gun with him for
But
defense.
you guys are waiting outside of the officers, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. We're standing at the edge of the street.
All right, give me just 1 second. Give me just 1 second to type in what you said, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
You said the back glass, the door, or just the window?
The window, ma'am. We don't know if anyone's still in the house.
Okay.
Others kept us all outside and away from the house.
Right now, I've got it in for dispatch. So you guys have not went inside the residence. And where did you say you were standing?
We're standing by the driveway.
Are there
kind of on the road? I am wearing a purple hoodie, and my dad is wearing a gray sweatshirt, and my mother is wearing a black hoodie. Again, we are unsure if there's anybody still in the house. We currently haven't heard anything, but we haven't checked, so we're unsure.
Okay. Now, as far as the family, are there cars gone, or like normally would you see a car in a driveway and it's not there, or it is there?
There are typically 2 cars. My brother, his wife, and their son went to drop off his wife's car. So far, only the truck is here. And no one has heard from them so far in about 11 to 12 hours.
What's your brother's name?
Justin Hicks, Timothy Justin Hicks.
What's his wife's name?
Amber Hicks.
And how many children do they have?
Just one. He is a 2-year-old named Jacob Raymond Hicks.
Okay. Now, as far as anything else that you guys looked at in the house, I'm not asking you to go back down there. Do you see anything else that looks like it's been disturbed or that it doesn't look right?
Not that I could see. I went around the house with my father, and all we noticed was a broken window.
And does she know of that window was not broken before?
No, ma'am. My father said for the police need to get here now, or he's going to go there.
They're on the way. I would suggest that you stay there and wait for them.
He said he needs to get here too.
The what?
EMT needs to get here too.
Who's injured?
Case. He said just in case. We don't know if anyone's still inside or not.
Okay.
We're now off the other side of the street. It's a neighbor's driveway. We're trying to stay away from the house.
And you guys have tried calling them on their phones and they're not answering? Is that correct? Ashley?
All right, that 911 call from the victim's sister. Right now, we have to squeeze in a break, but before we do, I'd like to share my thoughts from the bench. Well, let me tell you something. When a defendant walks into court facing a mountain of felony charges, it's almost unimaginable that a jury wouldn't come back with a guilty verdict. Lanz isn't dealing with a handful of allegations. He's staring down 35 counts. In Fulton County alone, he has many other felonies. In another county, 34 felonies in Fulton. We are talking 10 counts of aggravated assault, 10 counts of attempted murder, first-degree battery, home invasion. The list goes on. Any jury would be weighing a tidal wave of evidence, and the risk for him is simple. The jury could find him guilty on every last count, especially given emotions hearing this evidence would be running high. But a judge can cut through emotion and focus on statutes, precedent, facts, not sympathy and outrage. In my opinion, a smarter route to take in this particular case. That's why he has chosen a bench trial. Those are my thoughts from the bench. We'll be right back after this short break.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a former pageant queen charged with the murder of her boyfriend's son. We're breaking down key moments from today's big hearing.
Closing Arguments with Vinny Politan, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh.
Her husband now charged with her murder.
All eyes on this accused killer.
The disappearance of Anna Walsh murder trial. Live coverage this week following jury selection on Court TV.
Back now to Georgia and the stranger home invasion murder trial. Then 22-year-old Michael Lanz is accused of fatally shooting Justin and Amber Hicks back in November of 2021. The couple had just moved into their dream home with their 2-year-old son when they were killed, in this seemingly random attack. On the stand right now is Timothy Hicks. This is Justin's father, and the court is hearing the 911 call made after he discovered the home had been broken into.
Part 2 of that same call.
Hello?
Hey, we got disconnected.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to confirm that you guys have called them on their phones and they didn't answer.
We've tried calling multiple times now. My brother's phone rings a few times if we're going to voicemail. My sister-in-law's phone immediately goes to voicemail. According to my mother, they've been off social media for about 12 hours now.
Okay.
Do you know how long police will get here?
They're responding emergency. You guys just stay where you are.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, he said they're responding emergency.
I've got 4 officers that are on the way, so you guys just wait there and let them check that home, okay?
Yes, ma'am. He said 4 officers are on the way.
I'm going to stay on the phone with you until they get there. That way you can let me know if you see anything or if anything changes, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
On phone 911.
Yes.
You're going to get an ETA from responding officer. Just say that.
They're coming emergency. They're running lights and sirens, and the sergeant is also en route. You guys just stay where you are, okay? I'll let you know when I show they're close.
Yes, ma'am. She says they're responding emergency. The sheriff is also inbound.
No, the sergeant.
He has listed ETA.
They're responding lights and sirens. Just hold on.
He says they're responding lights and sirens. He's asking if you could radio them what their ETA is. He's a retired cop from Cherokee.
One second, I'm asking.
Yes, ma'am. Nothing yet. Ma'am, are you still there?
I'm still here.
One just pulled up. Cobb County, please.
All right, and you can let me go. They're there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tim, was anyone found alive inside that residence?
Jacob was eventually.
What about any pets?
They had a dog named Bruno and a cat named Cat. Yeah, the cat's name was Cat. Bruno, the officers eventually brought Bruno and Jacob out of the house. If you don't mind, I want to say that during that 911 call, I haven't told my wife or daughter anything about what I saw. I left it alone, and I guess my wife was kind of having unctions as well, and that's what you hear in the background, her screaming out.
Is that why you went ahead and asked for it?
All right, let's bring in criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Jack Rice. Jack, always great to have you on. A really sobering thing to listen to. The 911 call, knowing that both of the parents are found dead in the home. And then 12 hours later, they do find the 2-year-old alive. Weigh in on the importance of this 911 call and this witness's testimony.
This is always critical, Your Honor, and I think you laid it out perfectly, describing the fact that this is a bench trial. It changes how things work, but not completely, because the aspect of this is the humanity that's being poured into it by this father. You can see the anguish in his face. You can hear it in his voice. You listen to the break in his voice, and that matters because that also drives a judge who's sitting on the bench, who is a human being trying to do the best that they can. So that's a critical aspect of this. But the strength of a 911 call is it will take the fact finder, whether that's the judge or the jury, out of that courtroom. It pulls them to that scene because you can hear that interaction back and forth. And that's incredibly important because, again, what you always are trying to do, whichever side of the aisle you're on, is you're trying to take those jurors, that judge, out of the courtroom and into the crime scene itself so they can feel and experience everything that they possibly can. You want to drive them viscerally. And
yes.
This does that.
Yes. All right. So what is the benefit of a bench trial? Let me rephrase that. I already talked about the benefits. However, is there any opportunity, based on the evidence we know exists in this case, that he's going to get anything different than a guilty? What might the defense think they can convince a judge of to not find guilt beyond a reasonable doubt?
Generally, it's been my experience when I'm waiving, and I have cases, I'm constantly asking myself this question: what's the benefit? What does the judge give me? Let's think of it big picture. The one thing that you don't get is you don't get a jury of 12, which means they have to all agree. You get one. That's the downside. But the upside is what you get is a more generally a technical approach to a case, especially those emotional cases, murder cases, rape cases, serious assault cases. What you will get is a more technical approach. And as a result of that technical approach, you may see a more technical prosecution and a more technical defense, meaning they're looking more at the elements. They're trying to find ways to exclude pieces of evidence, to look more myopically at the case itself. Because some of these things are so gut-wrenching that it's hard to dismiss all of it because you want to do something because of that gut-wrenching nature of the charges themselves.
Yeah, and it's so wild. There's no motive, at least that's known, that the prosecution's putting forward. So it's even harder to understand how this happened to these strangers of the defendant. All right, stand by, Jack. We need to take a break. When we come back, we will have more of the stranger home invasion murder trial up next. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. We are in Georgia for the stranger home invasion murder trial for defendant Matthew Lanz. Lanz is accused of brutally murdering Timothy and Amber Hicks in their Metro Atlanta home in November of 2021 and then leaving their 2-year-old son alone for more than 12 hours until police found him. Lanz was arrested 2 days later after he had also stabbed a police officer who responded to a burglary call. Other officers fired at Lanz. They did hit him twice. Let's take you back inside the courtroom. Still on the stand is Timothy Hicks. This is the father of one of those victims, Justin Hicks. He's on direct examination by the prosecution.
Yeah.
The doctor said, just in case.
When I saw them inside the house, based on my experience, I knew that they were gone and there was no bringing them back from what I saw. But yeah, I asked anyway.
And at that point, had you laid eyes on Jacob? Did you know whether he was
I did
alive?
not see Jacob at all. I was very concerned about it. Honestly, my first thought was that he had also been killed.
When you finally laid eyes on Jacob, was he crying?
He was not saying anything or crying. The officer that brought him out was a black officer. I think his name was Winston. I think. And he brought him out, and Jacob was basically catatonic. He had a blank stare on his face. He wasn't crying. He wasn't saying a word. He just hung in Officer Winston's arm like a sack of potatoes. And Officer Winston brought him over to my wife and I at the van. And normally when Jacob would see Nana, he'd just bubble up. He did nothing. He didn't acknowledge anything.
Had you ever seen him like this before?
Never have.
What was he wearing?
He was wearing pajamas, a long sleeve shirt and pajama pants, bottoms, and his pajamas had been covered in blood, and it was dried.
The blood was dried.
It was dried on his clothes, and it bled through to his skin.
Do you remember whether his pajamas were otherwise dry or wet?
He had on a diaper. I don't know how many times he'd gone in it, but it was heavy. I mean, he was wet for sure. I don't remember if he had number 2 or not, but he was wet more than once.
A heavy diaper is the way you described it.
A heavy diaper.
Did he have anything in his hands?
Yeah. He was clutching Justin's glasses. And he wouldn't let go of them. We pried them from his hand. And I believe, I don't remember for sure if it was me or who, but we ended up giving them to the detectives, the glasses.
Are those glasses that Justin would use to watch TV?
Yeah.
Now, developmentally, was Jacob a fairly normal 2-year-old?
Absolutely.
Was he attached to his parents?
Yes.
Did he often try to get their attention?
Yeah. Yeah, if he wanted something, he didn't have a problem trying to get somebody's attention to get it or whatever. Still don't.
If his parents were on call or busy or preoccupied, would he get frustrated if he couldn't get their attention?
Yeah, he would keep pursuing.
Kind of like any 2-year-old.
Like any 2-year-old.
Do you know what time he woke up back around that time? Typically,
Typically, he would wake up probably between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. The habit, he woke up pretty, he kept steady with the pattern even when Justin was off and kept him. But the pattern is when Charlene and I would watch him, he would get up about 6:30 and Justin and Amber would get ready for work, and Amber would drop him off at our house to babysit for the day. And he was up by then, stayed up, usually.
And so typically when he woke up between 6 and 6:30 in the morning, would he have a diaper change?
Oh, yeah. He would have his diaper changed.
Was he potty trained at all when he was?
Not then, no.
Now, was he able to change himself or put on his own clothes or anything?
Not then.
And so Justin and Amber would wake him up, change diaper, put clothes on?
Right.
What about feeding himself? Who typically prepared his breakfast?
Amber and Justin would occasionally, if Justin was off from work, and then usually he had breakfast when he got to our house.
Is that still pretty early?
Excuse me?
Is that still pretty early in the morning?
Yeah, by then there'd be 8 o'clock maybe.
Now, was he able to get anything out of the refrigerator or go into the pantry himself and make his own breakfast back when he was 2?
No, not then.
Able to get himself any water or anything?
No.
Now, by 10 o'clock in the morning, had he typically eaten by then?
Yeah, usually by then he'd had his food and probably a couple of cups of juice or something from a sippy cup.
Snacks?
Probably snacks, yeah.
Now, on that day, do you remember once he came out of the home, did he eat at all?
The best I know that he had not eaten since dinner time the night before.
Did you have him checked out by EMS?
The EMS was on the scene, and I remember it was the female EMT. our paramedic. I'm not sure what her title was, but she was a medic. I knew that. And she stayed kind of close to us. And at one point, Jacob still hadn't come around. It took a few hours for him to even realize he was still in the world. And when the EMT lady, she was a little concerned and said, if he don't come around soon, we probably need to transfer him to the hospital. But before that took place, he did come around. It was almost like he'd woke up from a bad dream. He just like woke up and, Nana, you know.
After he had been with Nana for a long time.
She's holding him, you know, but before that he didn't even move. He just laid there.
Now, did that behavior continue for some days after? Or?
Not that particular behavior, but a little quieter than the average 2-year-old maybe.
And y'all has watched him regularly, so
since he was 2 months old.
Okay, so quieter than you had seen him previously.
Yeah, he was kind of a little bit docile for several days after.
Did he have any cuts or anything on his feet or his hands?
I didn't notice any cuts or anything on him.
So you had mentioned that there was kind of blood on his PJs that had kind of soaked through even to his skin. Was any of that blood, best you could tell, from Jacob himself?
That blood came from the crime scene.
Now, obviously you spoke to officers on scene. Could you think of anyone in this world who would have wanted to hurt Justin and Amber?
I cannot think of one person that would be considered their enemy. I mean, both of them just easygoing, likable kind of people. Kind of when they walked in a room, kind of lit it up, and without being flamboyant, made their presence was known. It was just someone pleasant to be around. Often if you felt a little uneasy, they had this unspoken way of bringing about a certain amount of calm. And Justin, he takes after me. He's a jokester, so he's always joking about something and cutting up about something. And he and I would razz each other back and forth about something. We like to fish together quite a bit, and it's always competitive when we go. It's just the two of us, but you would think it was a Bassmaster Classic between us. It often was, but yeah.
Thank you so much. The defense may have some questions.
Might be appropriate time for a break. We've been going for about an hour and a half and giving Mr. You don't have any questions? Okay.
May he be released from the subpoena?
Yes, is there any objection to Mr. Hicks being excused and released from the subpoena?
No.
Okay, Mr. Hicks, you can step down and you can remain in the courtroom.